experience is extremely important and even more important than ever before. We cannot waste time in either discussions or further parallel developments. Europe needs what ESA can do, can present, and can achieve now for Europe as a whole.
Hello, SpaceWatchers, and welcome to another episode of our Space Café Radio. I'm your host, Thorsten Kriening, coming to you today with a very special episode, making 50 years of one of the most influential space organizations, the European Space Agency. And to reflect on this milestone and look forward to the future, I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Kai-Uwe Schrogl, one of Europe's most distinguished space policy experts and currently the Special Advisor for Political Affairs in ESA. Dr. Schrogl has held senior positions in ESA at the German Space Agency DLR. He was Director of SP in Vienna and is currently the president of the IISL. And during the German EU presidency, he was seconded to the German Ministry of Economic Affairs. Today, he is at the center of ESA's long-term strategy and its dialogue with European and global institutions. Welcome, Kai-Uwe, and happy anniversary to ESA.
Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for your congratulations.
Let me start with a big symbolic question. Is ESA 50 years old or 50 years young?
Thank you, Thorsten. That's a wonderful question to start with. I will, of course, say ESA is 50 years young. ESA is an organization which has achieved during the past 50 years a lot, a tremendous lot, but we are always able to reinvent ourselves, to adapt, to change, and to then look into the future. And this is something I think which qualifies as a young organization throughout its 50 years. And I'm sure it will also remain a young generation organization for the next 50 years.
Do you think this perception matters when shaping public and political support for ESA's next step?
Oh, I would say so. The member states, and these are our main stakeholders, together with industry, the research establishments, and the scientists, they look at an organization which is based on good principles, on a good structure, something which is working on mechanisms which are in their interest and which are in their benefit. But at the same time, they expect from us visionary things which we have to come up with, which we have also to cope with, and which we will have to master and we will have to drive. So an organization which is based on a convention which is 50 years old, which provides it with the tools to manage what we are doing so successfully, but which we can then also adapt to future needs.
You spoke just about the EU member states, and how have they been involved in shaping or celebrating the anniversary?
The ESA member states are, of course, very, I would say, even enthusiastic about the 50th anniversary. And when we started to prepare this year of anniversary, we did that already last year, we received a lot of requests from member states whether they couldn't also do their national activities, having events, some of them even celebrating the 50th anniversary of ESA together with their anniversaries of partnership and even of membership in ESA. So we have a lot of events in the member states, and indeed they are really enthusiastic to see their membership in ESA translating into benefits and also being of popular or of public interest, which of course we love to see.
So before we talk about the central celebration 2 weeks back, maybe you can remind the young people in our audience, like me, who started ESA, who has been the founding members, and how did it all started?
ESA did not fall from heaven in 1975 when the foundation was laid and the convention was signed. We already had 10 years before that day experience with joint European activities. We had already since the early 60s 2 regional organizations in place, the European Launcher Development Organization, ELDO, and the European Science Research Organization. These 2 organizations were then merged in a process of political and diplomatic discussions, which led to a rather strong, much stronger organization than these 2 earlier predecessor organizations have been. In the beginning, there were only 11 signatories, but now we are 23. And this also shows that we have come a long and successful way to today so that we can prove, well, simply through the growing membership, that ESA is very popular with the European states, and they are really putting a lot of effort, finances, but even more promise in ESA to make them actors in outer space, jointly actors in outer space, but also individually be able to develop their capacities and also their industrial capabilities and technological capabilities through ESA.
So, as mentioned before, 2 weeks back, you hosted the Central Celebration event. Can you walk us through what happens there and give us the full gossip?
We had this event being planned, and our Director General was extremely excited about that because he wanted to have our member states being assembled in this key and main event in order to make them, on the one hand, inspired by what we are doing, what we have been doing, but then also to get their confirmation of their commitment for our activities. There were 2 parts in this event with 300 guests, which took place in our new headquarter building. And we saw in the first phase a fantastic and really moving show, which led us through the most remarkable activities and achievements of ESA in the past 50 years in all our areas, with artists, with music, really something which is absolutely memorable. And then in the second part, there were our member states on stage. So high-level representatives from our member states, either ministers from the capitals or ambassadors here in Paris. And they signed a statement, the anniversary statement, where they, on the one hand, set out their appreciation and acknowledgement of what we have achieved during the past 50 years, that they are, as it is put down, comprehensively satisfied with our role and our activities, also with our mechanisms. What is even more important, that they confirm their commitment to ESA and to a promising future for ESA. So this is something we are extremely proud of, which we are also glad that we have this commitment by the member states and that they were able to voice that in such a wonderful frame.
Why is that significant? So what message does it send politically or strategically? Because there is no alternative to ESA in Europe.
I also don't see an alternative. In Europe, we are so well vested. The member states are extremely satisfied. The scientists, all the stakeholders, including the European Union, for which we are a space agency and a developing agency dealing with Copernicus, with Galileo, with IRIS² and with many other activities. But it's good. And in the beginning, your question was asked, an organization being 50 years old also has to reassure itself. And this was the moment to reassure ourselves and to mirror that with the expectations of our member states. The statement, of course, was not just 2 days before set out. We have discussed that in council, and member states took great care in the formulations. It's now published also, and it will be further used for, let's say, political and public communication. So this is a moment and this is a result also, which is good in the context of a 50th anniversary. When we are looking ahead, when we have ambitions, you will know our strategy 2040. When we want to implement it together with the member states, it's good to have this reassurance.
I see your point. Now, I have to ask a less laboratory but very important question. So what about ESA's relationship with the European Union, especially now with the draft EU Space Act on the table? What is your point of view talking about the elephant in the room?
We have received this draft, as everybody, only a week ago. So it's too early to give any statement. ESA is an organization which thoroughly discusses and checks, also scrutinizes such developments before it talks. This also distinguishes it from other actors, and it's not yet time to come up with elaborate views and assessments. What is clear is that in the European context, capabilities, the capacities, and also the knowledge which is holding through also its 50 years of existence and experience is extremely important and even more important than ever before. We cannot waste time in either discussions or further parallel developments. Europe needs what ESA can do, can present, and can achieve now for Europe as a whole. And this is also where ESA and the Director General are pushing for in the next Council at ministerial level, to present new initiatives which bring Europe forward, which respond to urgent needs of Europe, also in the field of security and resilience. And there, I think we need, and when I say we, it's certainly the citizens and Europe as a whole, we need Europe, we need ESA for that purpose.
We have seen a number of common activities with EU and ESA in the last half year, especially. So can this anniversary momentum help to clarify roles and reinforce ESA's unique position within the European ecosystem as well?
We had the commissioner at our celebration, Commissioner Kubilius. It's, of course, also a signal to have him being there, speaking, making a very inspired speech, a very supportive speech. We don't have any doubts that the Commissioner and the Commission as a whole has a big interest in working with ESA, and that what we are planning, what we see as future initiatives, is something we will work on jointly together.
Okay. So these celebrations of 50 years is not just a one-day event. What else is happening during this anniversary year? Are there any initiatives, outreach efforts, or public engagement projects that mark this occasion?
Yes, we will, of course, celebrate the 50th anniversary in all our establishments, also during open days or nights of science, things like that. We will have a training course for students at our Galaxy establishment. We celebrated already in January together with the Space Generation Advisory Council, which had 25 years of existence in the year before, where the Director General for the first time had a statement on ESA's 50th anniversary. And throughout the year, we have a number of activities in the member states with stakeholders, important stakeholders. And we, of course, have a particular eye on the convention as such. Just to mention that, we asked the French Foreign Ministry, which is the depository for the ESA convention and holds the original, to prepare together with us a facsimile, which we now have laid out in ESA headquarters. It looks a little bit, if you know it, like the Declaration of Independence in Washington, and it makes a very, let's say, solemnly expression in our hall, in our main entrance hall. And this is something I think everybody is from ESA proud of when we are passing by, and the visitors are particularly interested in it and then appreciate the 50-year tradition, but also look forward to see us achieving a lot of things in the next decades.
I saw the ESA 50 years booklet also. So how are you using publications and storytelling to shape ESA's identity for the next generation? I mean, you alluded to the Space Generation Advisory Council, but there we have space nerds already. So halfway there, but how to engage with the other part?
Yes, you mentioned the booklet. It's called That ESA Delivers throughout the last 5 decades. And believe me, it was not difficult to find the 50, but to select 50 out of many more, which the directorates provided to us. So that was a really tough selection. The Director General himself then also intervened in that. And it was something where we are and all the directorates are very proud of now to see. This is something, a product which we use very broadly in order to show what we are doing, how we are doing things, how our colleagues throughout the 50 years together with the many women and men in our stakeholder groups, scientists, technology people, university people, industry people, but also in the administrations, in the agencies and in other bodies, are working together with us in bringing forward spectacular events like landing on a comet or a moon in the outer solar system, but also being able to measure things, to have the most precise navigation signal. I cannot even count all of them in the time frame of our talk today, but I can also encourage only everybody to have a look into it and get inspired.
Let me look ahead. So will this anniversary have an impact on the upcoming ESA ministerial conference? You alluded to that already in Bremen. Do you expect the legacy reflections to influence member states' priorities or the ambition level of the proposals? Or is it business as usual?
Certainly the ambition level, I would say. That was also the purpose of the main event, where we have assembled exactly the persons, the politicians, the space agency heads, which are preparing and will then take the decisions. And from what I heard and in the interaction with these people after the event, this works, obviously. They saw and understood, also felt what is at stake, what can be achieved, and how this also inspires that what their decisions will have as impact. And I think this is important to be tuned like that when you then go into looking into the figures, the programs, the contributions and the subscriptions, that you have in mind this inspirational effect of space. And I'm pretty sure it will even elevate the decision-making and will in the end also elevate the efforts we are undertaking for Europe.
But can we still afford the inspirational level that you mentioned? So what we know so far from the upcoming ministerial is we will see the current programs continuing and then new programs, like you mentioned, on the defense side. But it seems that it's more and we are not pivoting towards what is needed right now. How do you judge that?
I would disagree. We really have for each of our programs, the running as well as the upcoming, a clear understanding of the public value they are providing. Be it on a scientific side, we will again have the science program and the basic activities on the table. And then we have all the other programs, the optional programs on the table, which range from the application areas, Earth observation, telecommunication, navigation, via launchers to exploration, so that we are covering really the whole spectrum of space activities. And this is what distinguishes ESA also from other space agencies, that we are really covering the whole of space. And that sometimes gives the impression, oh, there are so many activities going on. Of course, because we are really covering everything. Besides that, of course, we are always looking into and proposing new initiatives. Space programs are not 2 or 3 year programs. Often they run 5, 10, or even when it comes to science, 15 or 20 years. So you cannot expect that we completely come up with a new set of activities and only new programs every 3 years. So we have to balance that and see that we also get the funding of completing these long-term activities. But as you mentioned, last year we had a lot of activities, new activities also in the field of exploration. Now we will have a particular look on resilience. And this is, I think, what is expected from us by the member states. And I'm absolutely sure and confident that this will work out.
If I may add one more. So what would you like European citizens, younger generations and policymakers to take away from this 50 years milestone?
We should try to make the people confident, where there is all insecurity, where nobody really knows what to rely on, also missing orientation. I think these 50 years show that ESA always, during the past 5 decades, had an idea of where to go and how to achieve things. And this is, I would say, a huge asset. And when you then can transport that and transpose that in the future, then I think people say, okay, here we have an organization where we understand, where we know, where we have seen, where it's proved that they know what they do, where they really understand what they are about. This is an organization we can rely on. And I think we have been missing that in many areas, not only space, in a lot of societal areas. And for that, ESA could become a beacon again for organizations, for activities, also for sectors in Europe, which have an identity, which create also a European identity, and which are successful and where the citizens can rely on.
Let's close on a lighter note. If you had to describe ESA at 50 in just 3 words, what would they be and why?
Successful, agile, and future-oriented. And I would say, first of all, this is proven through the ability to continuously adapt. And secondly, to be able to provide and present visions, in particular through Strategy 2040.
Great. Thank you, Kai-Uwe, for this thoughtful and timely conversation. And it's very clear that ESA is not just celebrating a legacy, but actively shaping Europe's space future. And to all our listeners, you can read the anniversary statement and explore the full ESA at 50 collections on ESA's website. Kai-Uwe, thank you very much and a wonderful day.
Thank you, Torsten, for having me. Thank you.
If you have further questions, reach out to us at radio@SpaceWatch.Global. If you like these or other episodes of Space Café Radio, leave us a rating on your preferred podcast platform. It is the currency of today. And if you want to stay on the pulse of the space industry, please visit our website at www.SpaceWatch.Global and subscribe to our newsletters. And of course, don't forget to become a Space Watcher. I'm Torsten Kriening, publisher at SpaceWatch.Global, your independent perspective on space.